I'm delighted to have Carolyn Hunter here this evening. Carolyn and I don't really know each other, but if you were like I was at the Influential Women in Business Awards 2 years ago and heard her speak, you feel like you know her. And so thank you for coming out tonight.
You're welcome.
Carolyn has received so many awards for her professional and community work, including the YWCA Twin Award, which is the tribute to women in industry, correct? The Moja Arts Business Person Award, the Epicurean Award, the Monk's Corner NAACP Award, and numerous awards by the McDonald's Corporation. What we're going to talk about a little bit tonight is how Carolyn started her career literally on the grill crew at a McDonald's and now owns 3 of the most successful franchises in the country. And if that weren't enough, just about a year ago, Carolyn made history when she made the largest single donation to Trident Technical College of $1 million specifically for student support. Is that correct?
Yes.
And we'll get into why she did it and how it happened. But we're going to start at the beginning, okay? I watched a lot of James Lipton do the Actors Studio, so you sort of bear with me, okay? You know, if some of you over there want to move over here, well, you can see Carolyn. That's all that's important. Okay. All right. Let's start at the beginning. Where were you born?
Okay. I was born in a little small town called Wausau in Virginia, and it's part of Westmoreland County area, where George Washington was born in that same county. So many, many years ago, that's where I first got started in Wausau, Virginia.
And did you grow up there?
I did. I stayed there until I graduated from high school, and then I went off to college. So I was in Virginia until I was about 20 years old.
What was the little town like?
I think it was one of those towns where everyone you passed on the highway, you knew them and they knew you. And if they didn't wave at you, you figured out something's going on. So we all knew each other.
Tell us a little bit about your parents.
Okay. Well, my mom, unfortunately, she passed away a couple of years ago, but she was a very hard-working woman. And I think she was my first inspirational person that I admire and look up to and still think about every day. And my father, unfortunately, he passed in a work-related accident when I was about 12 years old.
Oh, so your mother was a single working mother?
And there were 5 of us. So she had to take on raising all of us.
Where were you in the birth order?
Well, my sister is older than I am, and then I'm after my sister.
Okay.
And I have 3 brothers, so they're all younger than I am.
Wow. What about your grandparents? Did you know them growing up?
Yes, I knew all of my grandparents, and fortunately, my mother's mother is still living. She'll be 94 this year.
And is she living in Virginia?
She's living in Virginia,
wow.
And I think she walks faster than me.
I have to ask you this. Did you get into trouble when you were a child?
Well, I don't remember, but according to my mother, I did.
So according to her, what was the worst thing you ever did?
Well, I don't know, but she just said that, you know, I was kind of naughty. She didn't specify. She just said I got in trouble. So I'll have to take her word for it. Maybe I just blocked it out. I don't know, but she said I did. I don't think I did bad things. The only thing that I really recall that she never knew about was when I was about 12 years old, I smoked a cigarette, 1 cigarette.
Oh, we all did.
And I started thinking, if your mother finds out, you're going to have to pay. So that was the last cigarette I smoked.
Whoa, that's quite an effect she had on you. So what is your best memory of childhood?
I think probably when we came home from school, we would go outside and play softball. Yeah. And that just was a lot of fun. Every day, that was what we did.
Did you have a nickname?
I have a nickname. I'm not sure where it came from, and I still use it today. Callie is my nickname.
Okay.
So I guess someone was trying to pronounce my name maybe, and that's what they came up with.
Right.
So some of my family still call me that.
Oh, that's nice. In school, who were your best friends? What were they like?
Well, I think I was a good student. So my best friends were people who liked to study and read and that sort of thing also. So one of my dearest friends is named Regina. And Regina and I have been friends since the 2nd grade, which is almost 50 years.
And you're still in touch?
We're still in touch almost every day.
So you were a good student?
Yeah, I was a good student. It was a small school that I graduated from. I think we had maybe 140 some in our graduating class, and I graduated as salutatorian.
Wow.
So,
did you play sports?
No, I always read. They called me a bookworm.
Okay.
I was always reading. Yeah.
So When you were, say, in high school, what did you think your life would be like when you were older?
Well, I think when I was getting ready to graduate, and after I had gone off to some college, I really thought I was going to be a tractor trailer driver. Because they were advertising you could make $35,000 a year driving a tractor trailer. And I said, well, that's a lot of money. I'll do that.
I love it. I love it. If we were to call Regina, how would she describe you during those years?
Probably some of the things that I just mentioned, very studious and always reading and getting her, studies done. That was what I primarily focused on.
You were a good girl.
I was, I think. I was.
We'll go into whether being a good girl, we know it works in school. We'll talk about whether being a good girl works in the workplace, right?
Yeah.
Was there a teacher or more than one teacher who had a particularly strong influence on you?
I think probably there was one teacher that, even though I was a really good student, at times in her class I may have been somewhat inconsistent. And when she pointed that out to me, it made me realize that it really was important to do things so that they were pretty much more consistent instead of fluctuating.
Wow.
So that was something that she pointed out to me.
And you heard it and you did it.
I did. I believe I did.
Hear that, Alexandra? Listen to your high school teachers, right?
Yeah,
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
I know as part of your official bio and the lore about Carolyn Hunter that, of course, you attended a community college and that had a big impact on you.
Absolutely.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, when I graduated from high school, I did get some scholarship money. So I went off to Virginia State College. But unfortunately, it was only for the first year. So then I was faced with, well, how do you continue your studies?
Yeah.
Well, the choice became then to go to the community college. And that's what I ended up doing because I could afford to go there and work. And so I paid my way through the community college. And so I got my degree in business management. Wow. And after that, other things started to happen.
Well, before we get into that, we're going to get personal.
Okay.
Really personal. You were married right about near that time. How'd you meet your husband?
I met my husband, I was in New York City, through my aunt. And she actually introduced me to him way back in 1984.
So how old were you when you got married?
Actually, I got married late. I was 28 years old.
That
when
is
I got
late
married.
by Southern standards, certainly. Yes,
Yeah,
wow. Do you have kids?
I have one. I have one son. He's a very fine young man. He's 26 years old. He's worked with me in the business, and but he's doing some other things now, but he's enjoyed working in the business for a number of years.
I know you're going to get a little more into the sort of hours you were keeping and what you were doing, but when you first got married, you were working full-time.
Absolutely.
You had a child at home. What advice do you have for couples that are dealing with that kind of scenario?
I guess I would say if there is a support system available to help you, whether it's friends or family, and take advantage of it. Sometimes people feel that they don't want to ask for help, but if no one offers, then certainly seek that help out, because that's one of the things that really helped me. When I was working in New York City, my husband's sister kept my son really long hours. I would go to work sometimes at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I may not pick him up until 8 o'clock at night. But when I picked him up, he was smiling and ready to go to bed.
And clean,
happy.
right?
Yes, fresh, smelling good.
Did you have any sort of work-life balance during those early years?
I think in the early years, it really was a whole lot of work because, sometimes I worked 6 and 7 days a week. So I think it was very much skewed towards the work and not really a whole lot of time spent at home in those initial years.
So let's talk about that work. What was your first paying job?
Well, as I mentioned, I grew up in Virginia, and so my first paying job was picking tomatoes. We had tomato fields, so we would go every summer and pick tomatoes, and our hands would get all green with stuff from the tomato vines.
Yeah.
And we would fill up baskets, and that was what we did. And I can't remember how much we earned, but I'm sure it wasn't a whole lot. But that was what was available to us.
Manual labor.
Yes.
So when you finished your community college, what kind of work did you seek then?
Well, it came to me, and that's where my McDonald's career got started.
Yeah.
That was where my uncle was working, and he was a manager at McDonald's, and he came to me and said, well, you should come work at McDonald's. And I looked at him sort of haughtily and said, I'm not going to work at McDonald's. And then he came back and said it again, and I still wouldn't go. And I'm not sure how many times he asked, but at some point he wore me down, and I went.
And what was the job?
I started working in the grill area, which is cooking the food. But I liked it, and I didn't think I would. And I think that's one thing that people really have to think about. Sometimes when an opportunity comes up, you form an opinion in your mind you're not going to like it without trying. But I tried it and found out, contrary to what I thought, I did like it.
So how did that progress? Was that in New York that you took that first job?
No, that was in my hometown in Virginia, a little town called Tappahannock. So I worked in the grill area for a while, and then one day they came to me and told me they wanted me to go up front and wait on customers.
Okay.
And I was a little nervous because I had been in the kitchen area the whole time, but then I went up there and I said, well, you know, this is not too bad. But then my supervisor called me to the back because evidently I wasn't doing something right. And he said, Carolyn, you see those customers up there? And I said, yes. He said, you have to smile at them. And I said, all of them? He said, every single one. So I started smiling pretty quickly. And I found out it made me feel better. And that's something we try to get our employees to understand. You know, that smile communicates so much to the customer, but it makes you feel better also.
So talk about that career arc. How did that, you spent the next 12 years really working unbelievably hard.
Yes. When I started working at that particular store, I guess I must have been doing something right after that initial talking to, because they approached me about going into management. So I started the management training program, but I think I was a little bit of a renegade because I felt my store manager was unfair. And so I started having meetings with people to try to get him fired. I didn't realize that was not a smart thing to do. So when word got back to him, I quickly realized that my progress was not going to go too much more smoothly. So I made the decision then to leave because I wasn't going to go anywhere there. So I moved to Williamsburg, Virginia. And when I moved to Williamsburg, Virginia, I did start as an assistant manager. And I worked my way up from assistant to first assistant to restaurant manager. And one of the things that helped me so much was, even though my uncle was not there with me, at every step he was always encouraging me to move forward. So when I talked to him about opportunities for promotion, he always said, you can do it, and I thought I couldn't. And he always said I could, and he was always right. So, you know, him encouraging me every step of the way was just so powerful for me.
So he was a true mentor.
He absolutely was.
Wow. I have to ask, so you got in the management track. Did you go to Hamburger University?
Well, yes.
Is there a Hamburger? Is there really a Hamburger University?
There is a Hamburger University. I've been there 4 times. The first time I went was in 1979. It was very, very cold. That's what I remember, but that initial visit.
Where is it?
We call it Elgin, but it's really in the Chicago area. And we actually give college credit for going to Hamburger University. So it's a real university. And I have diplomas.
I love it. Hey, I mean, that's, go for it. I mean, you know, I'm trying to remember when the first McDonald's opened here in Charleston, what year it was, but it was a huge deal. I hate to admit Hardee's was here first, but the fries couldn't hold a candle to what McDonald's did. And it was a 10-cent burger, I seem to remember at the time.
I believe you're right. And one of the things that I can remember to this day that I learned at Hamburger University was, one of the tasks they gave us was to ask us, what are you working on, or what are some of your goals? And people would write down their goals. And then they would say, write down 25 work-related things that you did last week. Then the question became, how many of those work-related things were related to you accomplishing your goals? And in many cases, people found out none. And that was a real eye-opener to see that if you have goals, you have to do things that are getting you towards those goals.
Right.
And that's something I remember to this day.
Well, that brings me to the culture of McDonald's. How would you describe it, having been in it pretty close to the beginning, if you think about it? I mean, or the beginning in terms of a national presence, really. I mean, you're talking about 1979. Describe the McDonald's culture as it was when you first started, and maybe how it's morphed since then.
Okay, I think we've always thought of ourselves as a McFamily. And in many cases, it truly is. You know, the Charleston area is very small as far as the number of owners. We only have 4 owners here. But, you know, we all communicate and we support each other in, you know, any way that we can to help our business or anything else that we might need to do. And I think in many respects, the same holds true as you go down the line to management and employees. You know, one of my best friends is a person that I met in New York as a manager. So, you know, we form these relationships, and those relationships just endure. So it really is a family in many cases.
When you started, were there a lot of other African American women in that management track?
No, when I started in New York and I first became a restaurant manager, the owner that I worked for had 8 restaurants, and he did not have any female restaurant managers. So I was actually his first restaurant manager, and that was back in 1980.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you at any point run into discrimination based on race or gender?
Well, I think probably we do see that. Sometimes it's maybe more blatant than it is in others. And I think probably the one situation that comes to mind more than anything else is when I first came to Charleston. And when I came to Charleston, the owner-operator community was comprised of 5 owners. And out of the 5, I would say only 1 was very friendly.
Were they all white men?
Yes.
I couldn't help it, sorry.
But 1 was friendly and 3, not so much.
Right. How did you overcome that?
I think I overcame it by, we did not have to interact a whole lot. And I guess I felt at some point things would change. So, you know, I interacted with them when I needed to, but then I went back to my restaurant and did the things I needed to do to make my business grow. And at this point, none of those people are owners in Charleston anymore. So I waited them out.
Well, that brings us to making that quantum leap from working 14-hour days in New York City to moving to Moncks Corner.
Yes.
You want to help us through that segue?
Well, when I went to New York City, I met an African-American man that was the owner. And when I met him, it made me feel that maybe I can do this. So I asked him if I could talk to him about being an owner. So he told me, yes, come to his office, and I went. And we started talking, and he said, well, you need to save $50,000 and come back and see me.
And what year was this?
And that was 1984, okay?
So probably 100,000 in today's, maybe more.
Well, 500. That's what you need to get in the door, 500 now.
Okay.
Yes. So I went back to work, and I started saving. And I set up my account to have the bulk of my income moved into a savings account every week, and I didn't touch it. And it took me 5 years, but at the end of 5 years, I had $75,000. So I went back to him and I said, I have the money.
Back up. Back up.
Yes.
You're living in New York.
Yes.
You're putting the bulk of your paycheck into a savings account.
Yes.
Describe your life.
I worked all the time. I really did. I worked, and so I really didn't spend money on anything other than necessities. I was married, so my husband provided, you know, a lot of the things that were needed. But I really spent very little that I didn't have to spend. So a lot was sacrificed.
But you did it.
I did.
And when you started feeling the stress of it, how would you keep sort of punching along?
Because I could see that I was getting closer to the goal that I had to achieve. And the other thing that really helped so much was I enjoyed what I did. I've always enjoyed working at McDonald's, and I still do. So I enjoyed it every day.
So you saved the 50,000.
75.
Pardon me, 75. I kept hoping you'd save a little, maybe to put toward handbags or shoes. But,
that came later.
That came later. All right, we will get into that. We will not ignore that factor. Good things happen to those who wait. Make the move to South Carolina. You had the 75,000 in hand. You could have gone anywhere in the country.
I wanted to come to the Southeast, and that was when you fill out an application, they'll ask you, you know, what geographical area would you like to go to. It doesn't mean you're going to, but they will consider it.
Right.
So my opportunity came up in Moncks Corner, South Carolina. Well, believe it or not, my husband was from Georgetown.
Whoa.
So that really helped a whole lot because what we were able to do was just move in with his mother for a short period.
Very
so we
short
didn't
period,
have
right?
to very short. Well, not because
Right.
of anything
No, that's
other
not
than
fair.
it was an hour drive every day from Georgetown to Moncks Corner, and working the hours that I was, it really got to be too much. So, but it allowed us to move quickly and not have to find housing right away. But that did come later.
So you bought the first one, the
In
first
Moncks Corner.
franchise, and then tell us about the arc of the next two. How did
Okay.
you make those decisions?
Yes.
How did you cope?
Okay, well, the next opportunity didn't come along until 1993. In that 4-year period, no new restaurants were being built in the area, and no one was selling anything. So the next opportunity that came up was in Johns Island, and that was clearly to the other end of where Moncks Corner was. But my choice was accept this restaurant or keep one. So I opted to accept that restaurant because that was the only way for me to grow my business.
Right.
And that opened in 1993, and I owned it for 10 years. And then in 1999, I got the opportunity to purchase the one on College Park Road. So I purchased that in 99. And then in 2002, got the opportunity to purchase the one next to McElbean, which is Somerville.
Right.
So that made 4. But I mentioned earlier, it was a long distance from Moncks Corner to Johns Island. So one day, another person called who wanted to be an owner and said, Carolyn, I can really improve your quality of life. And
That caught your attention.
yes, I was like, well, tell me more. And he said, I'd like to buy the Johns Island location from you. And I knew there was more than his wanting to improve my quality of life. I think that really the real reason was he wanted to buy the store, period.
Yeah.
But, after some negotiations, we came to an agreement. And it was one of the best decisions I've made. He's done a tremendous job with the location. But what they did was it took me from 4 locations to 3. And sometimes, you have a certain feeling that you want more. But what I found then was that was the right decision for me because it really did free me up a lot. And also, my profitability improved with 3 locations compared to 4.
Wow.
So it was the right decision.
So talk a little bit about how much time you spent. I mean, you were going between 4 restaurants at this point on a regular basis,
Yes.
right? And what were your challenges with that?
Just really being able to feel that on a day-to-day basis, the amount of time I was able to spend in a location was enough that it really made sense. But at some periods of times, I did have supervisors that helped, although, some of them stayed for a period and went on to different things. But one thing that's really helped a whole lot over the past few years is I do have a supervisor that's been in the system a long time, has been a business owner, so has an extremely strong background. And that's been really beneficial over the past few years in helping my workload.
Well, talk a little bit about the culture that you have brought to your particular businesses, your restaurants. I mean, we know the McDonald's culture a little bit, but what has Carolyn Hunter brought? What is her culture? And how do you address things like your employees' work-life balance? I'm assuming the majority of your employees are women.
Yes. So when you say, what is my culture, it's pretty simple. Have fun, but get the job done. I believe in having fun. And so one day when my son had first started training in one of my locations, I went and talked to the manager to ask how was he doing. And she told me he was doing well. So when I told him what she said, he said, Mom, you always say you have fun. And I thought you were lying, but I have fun too. So I'm like, it really can be done. And that's what I try to get people to understand. You can make a decision to have fun even while you're getting the very important work done every day.
Right.
And I think that's really important.
What are some of the employee issues?
Well, you mentioned a while ago about a lot of our employees are female. So, of course, we have the child care issues. Sometimes we need people early in the morning,
Right.
but they have kids they have to get off to school.
Right.
So we have to work around things like that. And then sometimes, we have a lot of students that work for us.
Right.
So we have the issues where sometimes they may be working, but they have to make changes because it's affecting their grades or their parents want them to cut back. So I think, those are some of the issues that we deal with. And also, now I think our system is so much more challenging to learn than when I came. You made reference earlier to the fact that I have been here since the first hamburger was sold. So,
In Charleston. In Charleston, maybe. Oh, God, I'll never live that down. Sorry, Carol. I didn't mean that,
So the menu-
It was an inelegant statement.
And no offense taken. It's 36 years, just in case.
Yeah, okay, all right.
So, but when I started, the menu was basically hamburgers, fries, and
Right.
shakes and drinks. And now everyone knows we have so many things on the menu. So getting people in to learn the entire system and how all of those things work really can be challenging. But I would say McDonald's has done a phenomenal job of having a great electronic training system that they can update very readily. Because when we did things by hard copy, it was very hard to keep up with what was most current.
Right.
But now everything is frequently updated, and that helps a whole lot.
I gotta ask, how do you do it? How do you do it so those little spicy chicken nuggets taste the same no matter which restaurant you go to? I mean, what is the secret to that? I've always wanted to know. You know, the hamburger buns are exactly the same. The hamburgers taste the same.
I think that's the power of having a system such as McDonald's, in that there's a specific way to do everything. And you know, I talk to employees about this all the time. The procedure is going to be the most efficient way to get it done and get it done right. So it's simply a matter of us following the procedures that McDonald's has said. This is the way you should do it. And if you do it that way, the customer will get the result they're looking for.
How much oversight do they do?
They do send people in to check to see if we're doing things.
Undercover?
Well, actually, yes.
Ooh.
Every month, every restaurant has a mystery shopper. Okay, so
Every restaurant in the country?
restaurant every month has a mystery shopper. So we have someone who comes in and buys food, and they act like a regular customer. We
Yeah.
don't know
Yeah.
who they are. And matter of fact, I had a store today. It's so nice that you asked. I had a store, my Somerville store had a shop today, and they got a perfect score. So I'm really happy about that. So
So they tell you afterwards. Wow.
we'll get an email copy of the results.
Have you got any favorite stories from managing all these restaurants?
Ooh.
Any celebrities coming in or
Well,
anything like that?
Unfortunately, I wasn't there, but I heard that Will Smith came to the Johns Island restaurant one time when I owned it. And when the Republican debate was going on, Anderson Cooper came to the Somerville restaurant. So they do come in and out. And they like McDonald's too.
Does she know this stuff or what? I mean, I'm never going to Hardee's again. Forget Burger King, Wendy's, it's McDonald's. But to be serious for a minute, you are so involved in this community. And why is that important to you?
Well, I think, first of all, community involvement is a hallmark of a McDonald's owner-operator. We don't always know about all the things that people do, but every owner I know does different things in their community. So it is an expectation. But even though, you know, it is an expectation, I believe in doing things to help because I think it's really important. It's something I've always wanted to do, and as I've I think gotten a little more successful, I've thought about what can I do to help other people do better. So many years ago, I started thinking about trying to help people with education and housing and going into business. But as you mentioned earlier, more recently, I made a gift to Trident because I felt that would have immediate impact on affecting 17,000 people.
Right.
And that is a
Right.
lot of people that are going to that school. So, I mean, we do it because we want all of our citizens in our community to do the best that they can.
Right.
And we all benefit from anyone doing better. But the other thing about it is it gives you a really special feeling when you do something to help someone else. And I just love getting that feeling.
You know, initially I know that you wanted to keep your donation anonymous.
Yes.
Mary Thornley, for those of you who were here when I interviewed Mary Thornley, she talked at length about how I think she twisted your arm a bit. But
It still hangs.
But, but what changed your mind?
Mary Thornley.
Okay.
You know, she really did make some valid points that, you know, if people knew, then they may would respond a little bit and say, well, you know, this is not someone that you would typically think would make a gift like this. So if she's doing that, I might not be able to do that, but I may be able to do something.
Right.
And, you know, I do believe some of that has happened. Yeah.
Well, I think it all goes back to what we talk about a lot at the Center for Women, which is the few number of women in positions of leadership. There are not that many people who look like us. And so it's important for those of us who can do it to step up and say, hey, you know, this is a face like yours. You need to do it too.
Well, I think the other thing that I think about is when she mentioned to me that people needed to know who I was,
Yeah.
I thought about that I was only an owner, I believe, because of the guy that I met in New York. He was an African-American man, and that made me approach him to ask, how could I do it?
There you go.
So again, seeing someone that you can identify with, whether it's, you know, a woman or a man, you just have to have that identity or feel that I am inspired by what this person did, that I now can do something that I may have thought I couldn't do.
And I'll bet you've been approached since then.
Yes. but you know, even more importantly than being approached, I have gotten so many genuine thank yous. I've gotten thank yous from the staff at Trident. I've gotten thank yous from students at Trident. I've gotten thank yous from parents of students at Trident. So, I mean, it's just been wonderful for people to say, thank you for what you did. And that's all you really want.
You know, I mentioned some of the awards that you've been given over the years. What are some of the other organizations that are important to you?
Well, there's a group that Dorena Stinson and I formed in Charleston about 6 years ago. It's called CHUMS. And CHUMS is a national organization. We have about 40 chapters nationwide. And so we started the Charleston chapter. And we are a social and civic group, so our primary focus, in my opinion, is supposed to be to have fun. But
there you go.
I'm always about that, okay? But we also do things in the community. And one of the things that I'm very proud of is last year we formed a program. We call it Program Clean, and it stands for CHUMS Lifestyle, Eating, Exercise, and Nutrition. And we have a focus on all of those things. So we started off with 20 young ladies that we worked with.
Oh, great.
And
Yeah.
the program was very successful. So this year we're expanding it to 40 young ladies. And so one of the things I think we were happiest about was we asked one of the parents, how does your child feel about this program? And she had a daughter that had sickle cell. And some days she couldn't go to school.
Right.
And the mother said to her, well, if you don't feel like going to school today, you're not going to be able to go to the program tomorrow. Well, the young lady got up and went to school because she did not want to miss the program.
Right.
So we're really happy about, you know, the effect we were able to have in exposing them to these things. And they had fun learning them.
Wow, that's pretty strong.
Yeah.
That's very strong. Where is it based? Here in Charleston? The CHUMS
Yes.
program?
Yeah, that was one that we did for the Charleston chapter, and we actually won a national award last year for it.
Not surprised. If you could do anything now other than what you already love and are having fun with, what do you think you'd do?
I think I probably would like to be the executive director of some type of philanthropic organization. I want to give away money.
Find her a foundation. Find you a foundation. Well, so my next question is, as someone who's constantly going to foundations from the other side, no, I think that that is an important thing. I mean, you know, if you look at what's going on in this country right now, a lot of the social services that have been offered for many years by governments aren't going to be offered anymore. It's going to fall on the private sector. Lee Handel's nodding knowingly because we've been so involved in this sector for so long that the nonprofit community is going to have to pick this up.
Yeah.
And it's really going to look to private foundations and public foundations to be able to support ongoing social programs. So
Yeah.
I appreciate where you're coming from. So do you ever plan on retiring?
Well, not for a while. And one of the things I want to mention is we got an email some time ago about a McDonald's woman that retired that was 95 years old. So I have 40 years to go.
It's a lot of burgers, Carolyn. That is a lot of burgers. Well, you know, when you bring that up, talk a little bit. I mean, I was doing, you know, I Googled you, of course, you know, and one of the things I found was a press release that you had done, or McDonald's Corporation had done, that two McDonald's employees in this immediate area had gotten national awards, and one of them was one of your employees.
Yes. It's called the Ray Kroc Award,
Right.
and it's the top award a manager can win. So only 1% of the entire managers in the country win it. So she was able to get a red carpet, you know, award ceremony in
Yeah.
Chicago. I got to go, and she got $2,500, and she got a lot of other things. And they treated them like they were stars, which they are. And in the address the national president did, Jan Fields did, she mentioned 4 people. And my manager was one of the people she mentioned for her accomplishments. So she's been in the system a number of years and has just done a phenomenal job. Her name is Johnny Mae Baker, and absolutely the best.
And the CEO of McDonald's is a woman?
Yes, Jan Fields of
Did
McDonald's.
we know that?
Of McDonald's USA.
And I have to ask the question, since so many corporations have seen the light when it comes to recognizing the importance of diversity in senior management ranks as well as on governing boards and commissions, does McDonald's have a commitment to diversity?
Well, we actually have a person whose title is Chief Diversity Officer.
Well, that does it.
That's Pat Harris.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's her job.
Wow.
So she's out there working every day to make sure that whatever opportunities come up, that, you know, the right person's
Right.
getting them, and diversity is always considered.
That's really impressive. I had no idea about
Yes.
that. Now, can you all bear with me if I ask a few of the crazy questions from the Proust questionnaire, because I just think it says a lot about me. And I have to, she was allowed to see them, okay? No, this is not about gotcha, y'all know that. So I have to ask, and I'll let you have a drink, what is your idea of perfect happiness?
Ooh, I think, I did see that, didn't I?
Yeah.
I think really just continuing what I'm doing right now. I am extremely happy now. I'm extremely blessed. So I think really feeling that I am continuing to positively affect people's lives in a way that make things better for them through the employees, through the people I work with, and being able to help in some small way. So I don't think I really could ask for much more.
On the flip side, what is your greatest fear?
My greatest fear is there are a lot of things I still want to do and that I'll leave before I get
All of
a
that
whole
done.
lot of them accomplished.
Well, in line with that, what is your greatest extravagance? Since you had none for that 5 years in New York City.
Yeah, I think probably it was a car that I bought a couple of years ago. It was a convertible BMW, black.
Okay,
Pretty.
there you go. There you go. You gotta love it.
Yep.
Second greatest as I look at your fabulous shoes.
Well, I do love shoes. I actually built a shoe closet, so I love shoes.
A whole closet just for shoes?
Yes.
How many pairs can it hold?
Gloria's seen them.
How many pairs can it hold?
Probably about 250.
Well, Imelda,
That's what one of my friends calls me.
y'all remember Imelda Marcos that got in the palace and there were, what, 2,000 pairs of shoes? You know what? You earned it. You earned it.
Thank you.
What is your favorite journey?
I look at a couple of trips that I've taken. You know, I went on a Mediterranean cruise, and I think that was just so wonderful. And so that was a really nice trip to go on.
Yeah.
And fairly recently, I went on another one that was, they called it a Baltic cruise,
Yeah.
and so that was a favorite. So both of those, I think,
So you like traveling?
I do.
That's awesome. What is your most treasured possession?
Ooh, that one is tough, too. Can it be a person?
Yeah.
Okay, then it would be my son.
I should have ruled that out. That's okay. Yeah. No, but that's okay. And you're working with him. You know, I mean, has that been easy? I mean, you're not supervising him directly, but
Yeah, and then, you know, really, it is tough with a young man, and the mother is the boss. So I would say it is not without challenges. So,
I hear you. So who are your heroes in real life?
The first owner that I worked for, the one that helped me see what I needed to do, Lee Dunham. He was the owner operator for 40 years. He passed last year. His wife is actually the board chair for Ronald McDonald House, the national board chair.
Yeah.
So certainly he's one. My uncle, he's the one that opened the door and told me what to do and was there every step of the way. My mother,
Yeah.
okay? You know, she was the one that instilled the values of hard work and made a little seem like a lot. And I would say probably locally here, Mary Thornley.
Yeah.
When I look at what the college has accomplished over the past 20 years under her administration, I think she's just phenomenal.
What's your motto?
My motto is just get started. Just get started. Because a lot of times people will look at something and say, well, I can't do it. And I say, well, if you get started and you make progress, you will get there. You know, one year I was going to St. George, and I was driving a new car. And these young kids saw the car and they really liked it. It was a Cadillac Escalade.
Okay.
And they said, oh, that's a nice car, miss. And I said, thank you. Would you like to know how I got it? And they said, yeah. And I said, working at McDonald's. And they said, how long did it take you? I dared not say 28 years. So I said, just get started. Because, you know, it was a journey for me. But, you know, if you don't get started, you probably won't get there.